Good morning and good afternoon. I'm meteorologist Patrick Fitzgerald with another update here on now named Tropical Storm Bavi. Tropical Storm Bavi has quickly picked up strength here from previously 09W and is now a 60-mile-per-hour severe tropical storm according to the RSMC tropical cyclone intensity scale. Now, this is expected to rapidly intensify over the next several days, and the Joint Typhoon Warning Center explicitly mentions that they're in their latest forecast cone, and now actually has this explicitly peaking at a Category 5 intensity super typhoon by the time it does reach the Northern Mariana Islands. And also a little bit before that, July 4th Eve on Saturday, Sunday morning to Sunday afternoon, tomorrow standard time in the Northern Mariana Islands, and will continue Category 5 intensity for about 24 to 48 hours. After that, could actually continue for the next few days after that into the latter half of the forecast period, longer, considering that this is a very, very favorable environment to work with downstream for quite a lot of time. Currently dealing with some easterly shear issues right now, and also a little bit of a dry air intrusion on the eastern side, but this will continue to mix out that more drier air mass with time, enter a more moist air mass and all these favorable conditions, and will quickly take off here once it does get that inner core going. And obviously, like I said, with the environment, we're dealing with an extremely favorable environment here with the dropping wind shear down into the 5-knot range, maybe even a little bit lower than that for a pretty prolonged time throughout most of the middle half of the forecast period, obviously with the very high relative humidity and the extremely warm sea surface temperatures that we have from the very strong El Nino that we have in place across the Western Pacific. All three of these check off the check boxes needed for the more upper echelon worth of typhoons, and this definitely has the potential to get to that stage. Now, obviously, this is not definitives, but these conditions, if they are tapped into and this storm is in the right spot, it definitely can get to that more upper echelon worth of super typhoons, Category 5 intensity. And you can see that simulated here with some of our hurricane models. Now, obviously, these hurricane models are a little bit bullish in terms of their solutions, but given the extremely favorable environment that we have in place, and these solutions are not necessarily too far-fetched and can actually show a realistic scenario for the ceiling of this system here with Bavi. And you can see there by the time it does reach the Mariana Islands by around Sunday night to Monday tomorrow standard time, you can see it really gets down there in terms of pressure, down at 891 millibars, peaking there as an extremely intense super typhoon. The H-wave is also a little bit more tame than the HAFS A, but still quite intense as it rapidly intensifies down to a 920-ish millibar system there. Still a very intense super typhoon there, passing near the Mariana Islands through some of those islands there, which can potentially receive some very significant typhoon impacts by the time it does reach there. So I do want to stress here that this is going to be a potentially very dangerous situation for the Northern Mariana Islands, as well as even potentially Guam. There will be some shifts in the forecast track, but the general consensus is that this is going to pass very near to, probably through the Northern Mariana Islands, given its potentially very large size by the time it does reach there, especially reflected by the hurricane models, and the impacts can spread far out and can also impact most of Guam, and Guam definitely needs to be on high alert for some potentially significant impacts. But Saipan and the Northern Mariana Islands, excluding Guam, especially Saipan, has to really keep an eye out for this, as most of the ensemble models and the guidance right now is having it going right through Saipan, basically threading a needle with Saipan here. And even if this doesn't make direct landfall around Saipan and those Northern Mariana Islands, it is still very stressed that significant typhoon impacts are going to happen regardless, and we'll have a little bit more definitives in terms of those impacts once we get more data and the system progresses a little bit more. But given the current rate of organization with the system as well as its healthy structure, I would not be surprised to, when I'm going to be talking about this next and the next update to come over the next several hours, which will probably be by around Friday morning, Friday overnight, Friday morning, overnight Thursday, when we get to that time frame of Thursday, tomorrow afternoon on the East Coast, that this could be already a typhoon. I would not be totally shocked to wake up to a typhoon tomorrow if this organization trend continues. But regardless, definitely stay tuned to my channel. I'll have as much updates as possible on the system as it progresses. And definitely, if you are from the Northern Mariana Islands and Guam, definitely, like I said, need to be on high alert for the system, as potentially very significant typhoon impacts are likely once the system does indeed pass through. And like we said earlier, JTWC is now explicitly forecasting a Category 5 to come out of the system, and given the trends and projections that I've been seeing, I definitely think this will get to Category 5 intensity. How strong after 140 knots, though, is kind of up in the air right now, and we'll have more information on that as soon as it does become available in terms of more new model guidance and these intensity ensemble projections. But I'll have an update on this once again in the next several hours. Definitely stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for more weather updates from myself, meteorologist Patrick Fitzgerald. And I do want to also mention here as a side note that if you do happen to notice a different background setting for these videos, I am currently out of town at the studio in Mobile. I'm currently on vacation back home, out of the state, so I will be returning back home in the next few weeks, which obviously then you'll see me back to the more normal style of updates in the weather studio down there in Mobile. But regardless, stay tuned for more updates here on which will eventually become Typhoon Bavi, but severe tropical storm Bavi right now, and stay tuned for more tropical cyclone updates to come in the future from myself here, meteorologist Patrick Fitzgerald, signing off.